The sound of his laughter, a cruel, mocking counterpoint to my screams of agony, echoed in the sterile delivery room, a chilling symphony of his sadism. I was in the throes of labor, my body, a battlefield of pain, my mind, a haze of exhaustion and terror. And he, the man who had promised to love and cherish me, stood by, not with a comforting hand or a soothing word, but with a twisted smile on his face, his eyes gleaming with a terrifying, unholy joy. My agony, it seemed, was his entertainment, my suffering his private spectacle. The nurses, their faces a mixture of shock and disgust, tried to shield me from his cruelty, but his laughter, sharp and piercing, cut through their hushed whispers, a constant reminder of the monster I had married. Subscribe to our channel for more heart-wrenching stories that will make you believe in the power of justice. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. With each contraction, each wave of searing pain, his laughter grew louder, a macabre celebration of my torment. My miracle, the birth of our 5 children, was being born into a world of his making, a world where my pain was his pleasure, my agony his joy. And in that profound, agonizing moment, I knew that my journey had just begun, a journey I would embark on alone, with 5 innocent lives depending solely on my shattered strength. Their cries, a silent accusation against the man who had found joy in their mother's screams. Our love story began like a dark, intoxicating fairy tale, a whirlwind romance that swept me off my feet and into a world of opulence and intrigue. He was a man of immense wealth and power, a charismatic figure with a magnetic personality that drew people to him like moths to a flame. I was a young, naive artist, captivated by his charm and the promise of a life beyond my wildest dreams. He showered me with gifts, with promises of a future filled with passion and adventure, a world where I would be his muse, his inspiration, his everything. We married quickly, a lavish ceremony that was more a display of his power than a celebration of our love. I was happy, or so I thought. I was living the fairy tale I had always dreamed of, but beneath the glittering surface a darkness lurked, a chilling undercurrent of cruelty that I chose to ignore. He had a temper, a quick, explosive rage that would erupt over the smallest of things, a broken glass, a misplaced book, a meal that was not to his liking. But he would always apologize, his remorse as extravagant as his anger, his gifts a balm to my bruised spirit. I told myself it was passion, a sign of his intense love for me, a flaw that I could overlook in the grand tapestry of our life together. I was wrong. It was not passion. It was a prelude, a foreshadowing of the true depths of his cruelty, a darkness that would eventually consume us both. And as the years passed, the shadows deepened, his cruelty becoming more pronounced, more calculated. He would belittle me in front of our friends, his words a constant barrage of insults and humiliations, his laughter a cruel counterpoint to my shame. He would control every aspect of my life, from the clothes I wore to the people I saw, his jealousy a suffocating blanket that smothered my spirit. I became a prisoner in my own home, a gilded cage where I was his possession, his plaything, his to torment as he pleased. When we discovered I was pregnant, not with 1, but with 5, his reaction was not joy, but a strange, almost predatory excitement. He spoke of thee as I, spectacle, of thy drama, of thee as I teen, material it would provide for his twisted sense of humor. I dismissed it as his dark humor, his unique way of processing overwhelming news. I thought his love for me would extend to the lives we were creating. I was wrong. It was a new stage for his cruelty, and I was merely the lead actress in his macabre play. NNTHE pregnancy was a nightmare, a 9-month prelude to the horror that awaited me. He took a perverse pleasure in my discomfort, his jokes about my expanding waistline and my morning sickness, a constant source of amusement for him. He would invite his friends over to witness my condition, his laughter echoing in the vast, empty rooms of our mansion as I struggled to maintain my composure. He would mock my cravings, my exhaustion, my fears, his words a constant barrage of insults and humiliations. I tried to reason with him, to plead with him to stop, but my tears only seemed to fuel his cruelty, his laughter growing louder with each sob. I became a recluse, hiding in my room, trying to escape his torment, but there was no escape. He was everywhere, his presence a constant, suffocating weight on my soul. The nursery, once a symbol of hope, became a monument to my despair. The 5 empty cribs, a stark reminder of the lives I was bringing into a world of his making, a world where their mother's pain was a source of endless amusement. The whispers of doubt, once easily dismissed, grew louder, a discordant note in the symphony of my burgeoning motherhood. I told myself it was stress, the immense pressure of providing for such a large family. I clung to the image of the man who had held me, tears in his eyes, promising our football team. But the man who stood before me now was a stranger, his heart a fortress I could no longer penetrate. The grand design was fracturing, and I, alone, was left to pick up the pieces, carrying not just 5 lives, but the crushing weight of a love that was slowly, irrevocably dying. Then came the night of the delivery. The contractions started, sharp and intense, a wave of pain that took my breath away. I called for him, my voice trembling with fear and anticipation. He came to my room, not with a comforting hand or a soothing word, but with a camera, his eyes gleaming with a terrifying, unholy joy. "This is going to be great," he had said, his voice a low, excited whisper, a real-life horror movie. The truth, a bitter, icy wave, washed over me. He wasn't just cruel, he was a sadist, a man who derived pleasure from the suffering of others, a man who saw my pain as a form of entertainment. The man I had married, the man who had promised forever, was a monster, his true self unveiled in the cruel light of his twisted desires. The grand design of our love story had not just fractured, it had imploded, leaving behind a wasteland of broken promises and shattered dreams. And in that moment, as the contractions grew stronger, I knew that the man I had married was gone, replaced by a stranger, a man capable of a cruelty that would forever haunt my soul. The crushing blow was not just the infidelity, but the cold, calculated indifference with which he delivered it, a final, devastating act of emotional violence that left me utterly, irrevocably alone. And Section 3, the symphony of screams and the laughter of a monster NTHE delivery room, became a theater of cruelty, a stage for his sadistic performance. He stood by, filming my every scream, my every contortion of pain, his laughter a cruel, mocking counterpoint to my agony. The nurses, their faces, a mixture of shock and disgust, tried to intervene, to shield me from his torment, but he was relentless, his camera a weapon, his laughter a constant barrage of emotional violence. He would zoom in on my face, on my clenched fists, on the sweat beading on my forehead, his voice a low, excited whisper as he narrated my suffering. "Look at her," he would say to the nurses, his voice filled with a twisted pride. "Isn't she beautiful when she's in pain?" My agony, it seemed, was his masterpiece, my suffering his greatest work of art. The birth of our 5 children, a miracle of life, was reduced to a grotesque spectacle, a private horror movie for his own sick amusement. With each new life that entered the world, his laughter grew louder, a macabre celebration of my torment. My miracle, the birth of our 5 children, was being born into a world of his making, a world where my pain was his pleasure, my agony his joy. And in that profound, agonizing moment, I knew that my journey had just begun, a journey I would embark on alone, with 5 innocent lives depending solely on my shattered strength, their cries a silent accusation against the man who had found joy in their mother's screams. NNHE didn't stop there. After the babies were born, after the nurses had cleaned them and placed them in their bassinets, he turned his attention back to me. He held up the camera, his eyes gleaming with a terrifying, unholy joy. "Now for the grand finale," he had said, his voice a low, excited whisper. He proceeded to film my postpartum examination, his laughter echoing in the sterile delivery room as the doctor tended to my torn and bleeding body. He zoomed in on the stitches, on the blood, on the raw, exposed flesh, his voice a torrent of crude jokes and mocking comments. The doctor, her face a mask of fury, tried to stop him, but he was too strong, too determined. He was a man possessed, a man consumed by his own sadism, a man who found joy in the ultimate violation of my body and my spirit. The nurses, their faces pale with shock, finally managed to call security, and he was dragged from the room, his laughter still echoing down the hallway, a chilling testament to the depths of his depravity. I lay there, my body a broken mess, my spirit shattered into a million pieces. The physical pain was immense, a searing agony that consumed every nerve ending. But the emotional pain was far more profound, a gaping wound left by his monstrous cruelty. How could a man, a husband, a father, inflict such violence on the woman who had just given birth to his children? His rage, his utter disregard for my life and the lives of our daughters, was a crushing blow, far more devastating than any physical injury. It was the unveiling of a monster, a man so devoid of empathy that he could find joy in my suffering, a man capable of a cruelty I had never imagined. And in that profound, agonizing moment, I knew that my journey had just begun, a journey I would embark on alone, with 5 innocent lives depending solely on my shattered strength, their cries a silent accusation against the man who had just baptized me in his rage. Section 4. The shattered silence in the fierce resolve NTHE delivery room, once filled with the joyous cries of new life, was now steeped in a shattered silence, broken only by my ragged breaths and my body was a landscape of pain, each movement a fresh agony, but my mind was clearer than it had ever been. The illusion of our life, of his love, had been brutally stripped away, leaving behind a stark, horrifying truth. He was not the man I thought he was. He was a monster, consumed by his own selfish desires, incapable of love, incapable of compassion. The nurses, their faces etched with pity and concern, moved around me, their gentle hands tending to my broken body. They spoke in hushed tones, their words a soothing balm against the raw wound of my soul. They brought my daughters to me, one by one, their tiny bodies warm and fragile against my bruised skin. I held them close, their innocence a stark contrast to the brutality I had just endured. Their soft breathing, their tiny fingers curling around mine, were the only anchors in a world that had suddenly tilted on its axis. And in that profound, agonizing moment, a fierce, unyielding resolve ignited within me, and I would not let his cruelty define our lives. I would not let his brokenness shatter their futures. I would be their protector, their provider, their everything. I would raise them to be strong, independent women, women who would never be defined by a man's expectations, women who would never suffer the same fate as their mother. I would build a life for them, a life filled with love, warmth, and the unwavering knowledge that they were cherished and wanted. The decision was made, not with anger, but with a quiet, steely determination. I would leave him. I would take my daughters and disappear, severing all ties with the gilded cage that had become my prison. It would be a long and arduous journey, I knew, filled with challenges and hardships. But the thought of my 5 precious girls, their innocent faces trusting and vulnerable, gave me the courage I needed. I would fight for them. I would fight for our future. I would fight for a life free from the shadow of his rage. The shattered silence of the delivery room became the fertile ground for a new beginning, a beginning forged in pain, but fueled by an unbreakable maternal love. My cries, once silenced by his brutality, would now become the silent strength that would carry us forward, a testament to the resilience of a mother's heart. I would not just survive, I would thrive, and I would ensure that my daughters would too. The broken bones would heal, but the spirit, once shattered, would be reforged, stronger and more resilient than ever before. And in that profound, agonizing moment, I knew that my journey had just begun, a journey I would embark on alone, with 5 innocent lives depending solely on my shattered strength, their cries, a silent accusation against the man who had just baptized me in his rage. Section 5. The Escape and the Unseen Scars. Leaving him was not easy. My body was still healing, a patchwork of bruises and bandages, and my spirit was raw, exposed. But the thought of my daughters, their innocent faces trusting and vulnerable, propelled me forward. I planned my escape meticulously, in the quiet hours of the night, while he was away on one of his frequent business trips. I gathered what little I could, essentials for my babies, a few changes of clothes for myself. I left behind the grand mansion, the priceless antiques, the life of luxury that had become my gilded prison. It was a terrifying leap into the unknown, but the fierce love I felt for my 5 precious girls overshadowed any fear. I found refuge in a small, unassuming town, far from the prying eyes of his family and the long reach of his influence. I changed my name, my appearance, anything, to erase the past and build a new future. I took on odd jobs, cleaning houses, waiting tables, anything to put food on the table and keep a roof over our heads. It was a constant struggle, a relentless battle against poverty and prejudice, but with each small victory, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. My daughters were my motivation, their laughter my greatest reward. They grew, each one a unique and vibrant personality, their bond unbreakable, their spirits unyielding. They were bright, compassionate, and fiercely resilient, their spirits unyielding. They were a testament to the power of resilience, to the strength of a family forged in adversity, a family that had found warmth not in a blanket, but in the embrace of a loving community. NNBUT, the scars remained, unseen but deeply etched into my soul. The memory of his rage, the sound of my bones breaking, the chilling echo of his laughter. These were wounds that time could not fully heal. I would often wake in the dead of night, bathed in a cold sweat, the phantom pain of his blows a vivid reality. I saw the fear in my daughters' eyes sometimes, a fleeting shadow that reminded me of the trauma they had witnessed, even as newborns. I sought therapy, a safe space to process the trauma, to heal the unseen wounds. It was a long and painful process, but with each session I felt a little lighter, a little more whole. I learned to live with the scars, to see them not as symbols of my pain, but as testaments to my survival, to my strength. My daughters, too, carried their own unseen scars, the memory of their traumatic entry into the world. I encouraged them to speak about their feelings, to express their fears, to never let their voices be silenced. We healed together, a family bound, not by blood alone, but by shared trauma and an unwavering commitment to love and support. The escape was not just physical. It was an escape from the psychological prison he had built, a journey towards emotional freedom and a life defined by our own terms, not his. And in that profound, agonizing moment, I knew that my journey had just begun, a journey I would embark on alone, with 5 innocent lives depending solely on my shattered strength, their cries a silent accusation against the man who had just baptized me in his rage. And Section 6, the blossoming of resilience and the symphony of voice years turned into decades, and my 5 daughters blossomed into remarkable young women, each a testament to their resilience and the unwavering love that had nurtured them. They were bright, compassionate, and fiercely independent, their spirits unyielding. They pursued diverse paths, some becoming doctors, others artists, teachers, or advocates for social justice, each making their own unique mark on the world. Their laughter filled our home, now a vibrant hub of activity, with grandchildren running through the halls, a testament to the enduring power of family. They knew their story, of a father who had inflicted such cruelty, of a mother who had fought tirelessly to give them a life with love and opportunity. But instead of bitterness, it instilled in them a deep empathy, a profound understanding of the human condition, and an unwavering commitment to justice and kindness. They learned to find joy in the simple things, to cherish genuine connections, and to value the strength of family above all else. They were a symphony of voices, each one strong and clear, a stark contrast to the silenced cries of their infancy. They spoke out against injustice, advocated for the vulnerable, and used their experiences to inspire others. They became a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome even the most profound trauma. My daughters, once silenced by my pain, now used their voices to create a better world, a world where no child would be born into such cruelty, where no mother would suffer in silence. Their resilience was a constant source of pride for me, a living testament to the strength that had blossomed from the ashes of my shattered dreams. The scars remained, but they were now badges of honor, symbols of survival, reminders of the battles we had fought and won. And in their vibrant lives, I found my own healing, my own redemption. The symphony of their voices, once silenced by my cries, now filled my world with a melody of hope and triumph. And I watched them, my heart overflowing with pride, knowing that I had given them more than just life. I had given them a foundation of unwavering love and an unbreakable spirit. They were my legacy, not in the way he had envisioned, but in a far more profound and meaningful sense. They were a living testament to the power of a mother's love, a love that had triumphed over brutality, over neglect, over the very real threat of being silenced forever. They built their own legacies, not of corporate empires, but of compassion, connection, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. The grand design he had abandoned had been rebuilt, brick by brick, with love as its foundation and resilience as its mortar. And in that rebuilding, a profound justice was found, not in retribution, but in the quiet triumph of a life well lived, a family deeply loved. Section 7. The Echoes of the Past and the Unseen Justice. Occasionally, whispers of his life would reach me, carried on the wind like forgotten echoes. His once grand empire had begun to crumble, his ruthless tactics and cold calculations alienating even his most loyal associates. He had remarried, but his second marriage had ended in divorce, leaving him with no children, no true family. His life, once a grand performance, had become a lonely, desolate stage. He was a man consumed by his own emptiness, his life a hollow echo of what could have been. He had achieved material success, but at the cost of his soul, his relationships, his very humanity. He had chosen power over love, control over connection, and in doing so, he had lost everything that truly mattered. He was a ghost, haunting the periphery of a life he had once been a part of, a life that had moved on without him, thriving and flourishing in his absence. The echoes of the past, once painful reminders of his betrayal, now served as a stark contrast to the vibrant, joyful reality of our present. My children, once rejected, were now surrounded by love, their lives a testament to the power of a mother's unwavering devotion. They had built their own legacies, not of corporate empires, but of compassion, connection, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. The grand design he had abandoned had been rebuilt, brick by brick, with love as its foundation and resilience as its mortar. And in that rebuilding, a profound justice was found, not in retribution, but in the quiet triumph of a life well lived, a family deeply loved, and I never sought revenge. I never wished him ill. My focus was always on my daughters, on building a life for them that was filled with love and joy, a life free from the shadow of his cruelty. But justice, I learned, has a way of finding its own path, often in the most unexpected ways. His life, devoid of genuine connection, became a living testament to the emptiness of a soul consumed by anger and selfishness. His empire, built on a foundation of cold ambition, eventually crumbled, leaving him with nothing but the bitter taste of his own failures. He had wanted a legacy, an heir to carry on his name, but his name would now be synonymous with cruelty, with a profound lack of humanity. My daughters, on the other hand, carried a different legacy, a legacy of strength, of compassion, of unwavering love. They were the living embodiment of justice, their vibrant lives a stark contrast to his desolate existence. Their success, their happiness, their ability to love and connect deeply, were the ultimate retribution, a silent, powerful testament to the triumph of good over evil. The unseen justice was not in his downfall, but in our rise, in the beautiful, thriving lives we had built from the ashes of his destruction. And in that profound realization, I found a peace that transcended all pain, a peace that affirmed the enduring power of love and the unwavering truth that justice, in its purest form, always finds its way. And I saw him again, many years later, at a public event where one of my daughters was being honored for her work in advocating for victims of domestic violence. He was a shadow of the man he once was, his once sharp features softened by age and etched with lines of profound regret. He sat alone in the back, a solitary figure in a crowd of joyous celebration. He looked at my daughter on the stage, her voice strong and clear as she spoke of resilience and healing, and then his gaze drifted to me, sitting in the front row, surrounded by my other children and grandchildren, a vibrant tapestry of love and connection. In his eyes, I saw a flicker of recognition, a pang of regret so deep it almost brought me to tears. He saw the family he had so carelessly discarded, the legacy he had so foolishly rejected. He saw the love, the joy, the connection he had so foolishly traded for a life of solitary ambition. He saw the vibrant lives he had chosen to abandon, and in their success, he saw his own profound failure. He tried to speak, his lips moving silently, but no words came out, only a choked sob that was quickly stifled. He turned and walked away, his shoulders slumped, his steps heavy, disappearing into the anonymity of the crowd. He didn't need to say anything. The justice was evident in the vibrant lives of my children, in the strength of our family, in the unwavering love that had blossomed from the ashes of his abandonment. My miracle had not lost its father. It had simply found a better path, a path illuminated by the unwavering light of a mother's love. Justice, I realized then, was not always about retribution, about seeing him suffer. Sometimes it was about the quiet triumph of resilience, the enduring power of love, the profound joy of a life well lived despite the pain inflicted by others. He had laughed while I screamed, but he had failed to silence my spirit. My agony, once his joy, had become the fertile ground from which my daughters had blossomed, their lives a vibrant testament to the true legacy of a mother's unwavering love. And in that moment, as I looked at my beautiful, thriving family, I knew that the true legacy was not in the physical scars he had left, but in the unbroken spirit that had emerged from the crucible of pain. It was in the laughter of my grandchildren, the unwavering support of my children, a quiet strength that had carried me through the darkest of times. It was a legacy of love, resilience, and the profound truth that even in the face of the deepest betrayal, the human spirit can not only survive, but flourish, creating a tapestry of life more beautiful and meaningful than any grand design. My miracle, once met with rejection, had become my salvation and the enduring testament to the power of a mother's unwavering love,